our generational X leader is Sataya Nadella, the chairman and CEO of Microsoft. Next slide. Let's see. He's some background info about him. He is from southern India. He's raised Hindu. He's married with 3 kids. One of them passed in 2022, and his son that passed had cerebral palsy and legally blind and quadriplegic. He passed at the age of 26. He lives in Bellevue, Washington, and he has 2 bachelor's and 2 master's degrees. One fun fact is that he came to the U.S. To get his master's and MBA. And he has his master's in computer science and an electrical engineering degree from Magellan University. So his leadership style, over the past 10 years, he's been leading one of the most valuable companies in the world. He has innovated the cloud industry. He's changed the company culture all around. He values empathy, and he looks for leaders that have certain attributes such as the growth mindset, the learning attitude, and consumer-centric mindset. And our next one.
Okay, so how many of you guys on like your first couple weeks of work made like a really bad mistake? I raised my hand too. So we're gonna go into some mistakes he made. One of them being in his first year as a CEO at Microsoft. I'm going to play a video showing off this mistake. Oh, how do I play it?
Okay, it should, just let it go through.
Dozens of women sat at the Grace Hopper Commuting Conference on Thursday to get some insight from the 3rd CEO in Microsoft's history. But the backlash began when he suggested women should not ask for pay raises and instead trust the system.
What a guy.
It happened when Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was fielding questions about mentoring at a conference dedicated to women in the technology field. He was asked a question about salaries, and his response shocked the audience.
For women who aren't comfortable with asking for a raise or sort of saying, who aren't the younger you, let's say, what's your advice for them?
It's not really about asking for the raise, but knowing and having faith that the system will actually give you the right raises as you go along.
Nadella noted that there is a quiet impact in not asking for a raise, a sort of superpower.
One of the additional superpowers that, quite frankly, women who don't ask for a raise have, because that's good karma. It'll come back. In the long-term efficiency, things catch up.
The moderator, Maria Clave, a computer scientist and Microsoft board member, jumped right in, and the audience agreed.
This is one of the very few things I disagree with you on.
The outrage directed at Nadella was immediate.
So, as you guys can see, being a CEO, there's a lot of things at stake. There's a lot of public audience that you have on you, and a lot of mistakes CEOs make in the first year of being a CEO is not understanding whatever they say will be amplified 1,000 times of what they're saying. Another mistake he made in this scenario was just not understanding his audience. This was one of the first times he was speaking publicly about Microsoft, and he did not do enough research on his audience of a woman and how being a woman in the tech field is hard and comes with a lot of different challenges. Another issue he had during this controversy about his communication, even though he was really confident.
No, I'm sorry. Can you expand the
Oh,
slides?
it's just the next one is going to be a video too, so I don't want to have to go
Okay.
He was very confident, but he did laugh, which is a nervous type of thing. Because he wasn't trained yet in PR and communication, he had to learn how to, take a time, understand his audience, take a deep breath, and then try to recover from that step. His overall other struggles is that being in the tech world, there's lots of layoffs. So he's had to do layoff messages. One controversy he had was when there was a layoff, he talked about AI and outsourcing to India, which is something that kind of scared people. So learning from those mistakes, being in such a big company is something that he has done recently and is able to overcome his communication errors throughout his career. Play one more video of his speaking. But before I play that video, I want to
People, places, and things, and you.
For this video, so he was actually giving a keynote at a conference for Microsoft. The audience was businesses, journalists, IT people. So he was giving a speech about the future of his company, which is a keynote speech. And in doing so, he was trying to inspire. The first 2 minutes of your speech should be try to inspire. And at the beginning of the video, I'll play a little bit of an ad that they played before his speech. And then we'll get into the speech.
We're going to be able to have not only productivity gains, but insights to start those near real time.
Generative AI can learn from the data to help improve the farmer productivity.
AI is unlocking creativity for us all.
Scriptures are so detailed. In my imagination, I can paint the artwork.
Us on the web. Good morning. Good morning. It's fantastic to be back here at Microsoft Build. Welcome to everyone here and joining us on the web. Developer conferences are always most exciting, most fun when there's these fundamental changes that you can sense in the air. I've marked all my adult life by coming to PDCs and builds, for the last 3 decades. I still remember, distinctly the first time Win32 was discussed. I guess it was 91, .NET, Azure, right? These are moments that I've marked my life with. And it just feels like we're yet again at a moment like that. It's just that the scale, the scope is so much deeper, so much broader this time around, right? Every layer of this tech stack is changing. From everything from the power draw and the cooling layer of the data center to the NPUs at the edge are being shaped by these new workloads, right? These distributed, synchronous data parallel workloads are reshaping every layer of the tech stack.
So during this speech, he does have some really good strengths. He's very confident. He walks into the room very boldly. He has great speaking in the sense that his voice projects. He pauses, he holds, just so that the audience can really clearly hear what he's saying. Those are some great attributes he has in his communication, and that's what has made him a good leader. But there are some issues in his communication that we do think he needs to improve on. For one thing is empathy. So as I played at the beginning of the video, you saw that they had this great advertisement showing how technology is helping people all around the world. But he is a very technical person himself. He's very about skills. He has a lot of master degrees, and being from that background, he is unable to have personal connection with his communication. He has a lot of verbiage that is very high technical verbiage. He talks about APUs and Azura, and from my technical perspective, I don't know what he's talking about. Even though the audience is full of techies, there are people in the audience that are looking to buy stuff for the big businesses and don't know where he's coming from. But he's speaking about this, and he doesn't have a lot of human connection in the sense that the first 2 minutes of your speech should be a hook, and in those first 2 minutes, you just go straight into just tech verbiage. And when that company is so bold to have advertisements about humans, he doesn't really talk from a human's perspective, he talks from a tech perspective. Another thing, even though his body language is pretty good, he does tend to fidget with his hands, as most of us do. He kind of goes like this as well, which is a little awkward at some times. And he also doesn't have a lot of good facial expressions. He is kind of robotic, like I said. He comes from such a tech background. He probably spent the first 20 years of his life sitting behind a desk studying. He's not very a people person. But it doesn't make him a bad CEO, it just makes him not a great communicator. So that's why he's always like this, and not pausing and not showing facial expressions, not having a lot of exciting words and voiceful inflections. Next we'll go into his awesome revenues in the last couple of years.
Okay, so aside from, aside from his speaking capabilities as a leader, he has been very impactful and has had a lot of success in his career. And so that's especially been since he became CEO of Microsoft, which was in 2014. And so some key achievements that he's made is that he was instrumental in transforming Microsoft's cloud services. This was launching Azure, which was under his direction, and this is now the most profitable business area of Microsoft. Cloud computing is a really high growth sector of the industry of technology, and so this has been really impactful on Microsoft's performance over the years. And then he has also heavily invested in OpenAI. He, in 2023, made a multi-billion-dollar investment to accelerate AI breakthroughs. So this just kind of goes to show that he is someone who really supports continuous learning. He wants to invest in research for new technologies, and he also wants to make AI very accessible for the public, which I think is a very respectable endeavor. And then he also revitalized Microsoft's image and market position, as Lemia touched on in the beginning. He's really fostered a culture of empathy and collaboration and continuous learning, like I said, and we will touch on market position in a moment, but these efforts have gone to improve their image both internally and externally to the company and have also impacted their finances. So next up, I'm going to talk about some revenue. We're going to go into the financial breakdown. So this is over the past 5 years compared to some other industry leaders. On the left, you can see that this bar chart shows that Microsoft has had a 14.29% average revenue growth over the past 5 years. This is 2019 to 2024. This is less than the industry average, but more than the market average. So that just goes to show that they've had steady growth over the years, but they're just not quite as aggressive in their increase compared to some other technology firms in the industry. And this kind of demonstrates it a little more vividly on the right, in that graph on the right. We have Microsoft, which is on the red line, Google in the yellow, Apple in the blue, and then Oracle in the green. As you can see, Microsoft has had some steady growth over the years. They have doubled their revenue since 2019, from 2019 to 2024, but they have a very consistent upward growth line, whereas, so like I said before, we can see that Apple and Google have had some more aggressive growth in the recent years. And then now I'm going to pass it off to Kendall to continue the financial analysis.
Thank you, Naomi. I'll give everybody a second here just to kind of digest all the squiggly lines there as far as Microsoft's earnings. One important thing to note here with this chart is that they are the only company within their competitors that has not had a negative year or even a flat line there. As you can see, the Oracle at the bottom there's kind of had some struggles there. Where their earnings about 15.4 billion a year, which is about 19.5%. And not only are they, making money, they're also investing a lot of money into things, as Naomi already mentioned. One of the things that they bought since Satya took over was LinkedIn. That was, I think, in 2016, and also Minecraft. I don't know if Minecraft was in here. This age group, I don't know. But yeah, so there's been a few big investments there that they've made as they continue to grow. Next slide, please. All right, so that's the stock price. So I want to point out here that, maybe a little disclaimer with the stock here. So this is average price during the 5-year period, right? So it's not going to, show stock splits or 52-week highs and lows. This is just what the average was during that time. And once again, they just continue to climb. And as a matter of fact, since 2014, since Satya took over, if you had invested $5,000 in 2014, it would be worth $52,000 today. So I think about 132 shares. So, this company's continuing to grow, their stock is continuing to grow. And if you see the couple little dips there between Apple and Oracle, this is pretty significant for today, specifically for Apple, because Apple, the reason they have this dip here was tariffs in 2019. And I don't know if everybody following the news right now, but tariffs has been all over the news. So, and as you can see, that did not affect Microsoft one bit. So, who knows what the future will bring, but it looks like they've done really well, keeping the business competitive in all kinds of markets. So, and I will be turning over to Tara.
Thank you, Kendall. So as you may know, Kendall did touch on the LinkedIn. So Satya was a CEO and he did have a couple acquisitions that were huge, and the biggest one was LinkedIn for $26.2 billion, and he was a huge success in that. So now we will be going into a couple recommendations for the company. So the first would be precision in communication. So we definitely want Satya to be a little bit more open and a little bit better with his gestures. As Sarah did mention, he does keep his hands a little closed, and he is a little bit more tech and introverted, so he needs to be able to speak a little bit more out and with his hands, as well as a little bit more clear and transparent. He can also promote data-driven decisions by really leveraging AI and strategies as well. And he also can ensure clear and transparent communication, as well as model-based problem solving. We also have long-term vision alignment, which Satya can align teams with Microsoft's long-term vision while fostering a learning culture through employee development, upskilling and innovation, integrating sustainability, user feedback, and emerging technologies, as well as empathy culture reinforcement. So we also have reverse mentorship. So he can be ultimately going through a junior employee, and he can be mentoring a junior employee, so he can get generational gaps and feedback through employees at the company to better understand their empathy of the employees, as well as empathy sprints. The empathy sprints will be able to help product design and workplace dynamics. So this will help prioritize user needs and employee needs. And overall, Satya has had a strong ethos. He's been able to deeply embed his leadership style at Microsoft. He's been able to build on empathy. He's had a growth mindset, and he's been able to have innovation, which have really shaped Microsoft. And he's been able to have a transformation under his leadership. Thank you. Any questions?
Kendall, you showed how Microsoft's able to stay consistent when other companies took a pretty big hit, looked like in 2019, 2020. I'm just wondering how Satya and Microsoft was able to stay consistent when the other tech companies weren't. Like, what was their differentiator?
Well, yeah, one of the things that we looked at was, like I said, the tariffs was was probably a big one. Oracle will just kind of have some business problems that, where I think they were doing a buyback a lot of their stock. And also around that time, that we kind of equated to was COVID started happening, right? And Microsoft Teams and some of their other products were just really suited for dealing with that.
Do you think it was the cloud that made it not only like stay consistent, but it like actually boomed as well? Like when we're talking about the stock price, it went up throughout those years, which like was really curious to me. Like the cloud computing or some other thing.
I think there was the cloud definitely contributed to it, but a lot of just online working that was going on with a lot of